What's going on, Geeks and Geekettes? It's another episode of the Countdown to the Geekcast, and this is going to be our spoiler discussion of the brand new DC Comics movie Blue Beetle, featuring Shola Maridueña and directed by Angel Manuel Soto. If you haven't seen the movie, this is a part of our review where I would strongly suggest you pause this video, come back after you watch it, hear what we got to say, and also always let us know what you thought about it. But we're going to get into it right now. And first off, let's just go out and clear the air. This movie is incredible. And we're going to tell you all the reasons why. But first, let's hear from David about your general overview or like what really worked for you in this movie.
Everything I think kind of worked for me. I tried going back after I watched the film to really dissect where things had to be changed in order to improve it. But there was really not a lot that I could go back and say, well, they maybe misstepped here and misstepped there. It felt like just a solidly written film, solidly directed, solidly acted. The soundtrack was great. The music choices, the CGI was really good. It felt like it was completed, unlike some films. It felt like there was care put in, there was love, there was care, and just overall, man, I came into this movie being a little apprehensive because it's a movie that was created before James Gunn and Peter Safran took over DC. But James Gunn did explicitly state that we want to release this film in theaters because we believe in it. We think it's good. We see a future for Blue Beetle. It's just up to the audience to show up to support the film. And I think there is certainly a certain audience that will show up to support this film. It's our people, the Latin culture, and it's it's incredible. Like you said, it's. I turned to Ray in the movie theater, and I said, "I think we just made a core memory here." After watching the film, when it was over, it was like, "Wow, it's unbelievable," especially for people of our culture. I'm Mexican American, and to see the things that we got to see in the film was incredible. Stuff you've never seen in a movie that was directly related to the way we grew up and the things we saw in our family. They were shown on screen, which is incredible. It's very rare for us to see something like that from a Hollywood movie, from a DC movie, a big time comic book film. And the superhero part of it was great. I love the suit. The suit is awesome. The character in and of itself is really cool. It's a combination of a lot of other characters I think we've seen in the past, abilities that we've seen in the past, but it's a super cool character that will work in other films. Very powerful character as well.
It's an incredibly well directed, well written film. It is solid. You are invested from the start, and it I wish there was a great way to explain exactly why this might mean so much to somebody who grew up in a Latin or Hispanic household. Um, it's just it's so familiar, and
Yes.
the dynamic of the family is spot on. And even if you aren't completely familiar with the dynamic of a Hispanic household, if you watch this, you might observe it for the first time, or maybe you had a friend who grew up in a household like that. And so this will make sense to you. I don't want this to be a thing that people don't go see the movie for. Like, oh, I'm not going to understand it, so I'm not going to go watch it. No, go watch it so you can actually see what we're talking about. But even still, the action, incredible. The special effects, CGI, which has been a big talking point for every superhero movie for the last 5 years. It feels like it's all high quality stuff. Like I didn't see any issues with the special effects, with the CGI whatsoever. You know what really surprised me? The fight choreography. This is the what 50th, 60th superhero movie in the in the last 20 years. You feel like you've seen it all, but the fight choreography in this is like spot on, and it's so inventive at times and creative, and it's brutal. Blue Beetle Jaime Reyes, the character that we're going to be talking about here, he fights different. It's like he's more agile. Like he kind of fights in a lot of ways, like Captain America did in The Winter Soldier. Cap was real agile in that movie, quick on his feet, doing acrobatic things and whatnot. And Jaime fights like that, or shall I say, the suit at times fought like that. Um, Even this relationship with the scarab, this AI, who they refer to as, I hope I don't get it wrong, Kaji. Is that
Yeah.
I want to say it's Kaji, or I'll look it up in a second.
Do they ever say that name in the movie?
Kaji Da. He says it a lot. He says it. Uh,
For
Sholo
some reason,
says
I
it
didn't
a
catch that.
lot. He says it like 7 or 8 times. He's just like, I think her name is Kaji Da, but he only says
Okay.
Kaji.
My
Like,
mind must have been thinking about the thing that they showed right before they, because I mean, there's so many
sure.
things in here that you just kind of like, oh my god, did they just give us that? And you kind of, I'm one of those people that when you watch a movie for the first time, you're waiting for certain things and you're trying to predict, and your mind is like spinning in so many different directions. It's like, would I have done that? What are they going to do next? Is this going to be predictable? The sound, the score, the CGI. That's my mind. So I usually have to watch the movie more than one time to get my full kind of judgment on it. But yeah, I think I knew the name, but that was from research on the internet, and Becky G was the voice, and
Yeah.
it didn't sound like it was Becky G. They put her voice through like a computer, and it was like synthesized, so it,
Yeah,
it
it
was
was
not recognizable.
it was a bit of a digital filter for
Yeah.
sure. But even still, I watched every episode of Young Justice religiously. They introduced Jaime Reyes as a character in season 2 of Young Justice, which was years and years ago. And there was always this great relationship dynamic between Jaime and the Scarab. And there was fantastic banter. I would equate it to the banter you get between Tom, what's his face in Venom, Tom, 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 Tom,
Tom Hardy.
Tom Hardy, and the symbiote in Venom.
Right. Okay.
That banter is so entertaining, and it's back and forth, and it's witty, and it's quick, and all that stuff. And so I was like, are they going to go for the Young Justice deal? Are they going to go for that sort of the back and forth, real witty banter, or is it going to be more like a fish out of water where they don't really like understand each other? Like, there's so many ways you can do it, and I'm happy to say, like, it was also entertaining. They did it differently. At times, they didn't understand one another, but there was also this weird thing where, like, they wanted to work together. They were both sort of yearning to merge into like one, um not
Entity.
person, but yeah, almost like that. Without saying that, they were trying to align on this like wavelength with each
Right.
other,
Right.
and that's kind of a new thing, and it's really cool. And so building towards that connection was really interesting. I early on said, when the first teaser came out, I kind of wish they didn't reveal his identity to the family, because we have Spider-Man tries to hide his identity, and you have other young heroes that try to hide their identity, and you can play with those scenarios and those situations around the family, and it's fun and it's funny, and you take all those opportunities away when you right off the bat reveal to the whole family, I have a superhero power, or I have this superhero suit, and now I have all these abilities. So initially, I was like, I don't know if this is gonna win me over. Flat out wrong. They did so many fantastic things with this component of the family knows right from the get go. Now he is a hero, but at times, he needs that support system
Hmm.
in a variety of ways. And so, how do you do that? It's not just the love interest in the movie that's your support system trying to get you out of a situation or whatever, but now you have this entire family,
Hmm.
and they're so unique in their own ways and they're so different. The mom maybe didn't have a whole lot to do in this one, but that's okay. Not a big deal. The grandma, the sister, the dad, oof.
Yeah,
It's
the dad
just
stuff, man.
incredible. Move into that. I did not expect to for this to be as emotional of a movie as it was. Especially just coming off James Gunn Volume 3. I'm like, you really can't,
Yeah.
really hit those same emotional beats. You can't really pull on the heartstrings as hard as you did in that one. Why
Yeah.
even
But
try?
like it was like Guardians 1 and that Peter Quill would see his mother and they kind of flipped it where Jaime saw his father in kind of that like special part of I don't know between death and living and got to interact with him and got that um, got wisdom. So it was more than what we got in Guardians 1 and he got the kind of reinforcement and to me it was telling me that Hyman knew all along what his dad would say. I mean, it's up for interpretation, but it's like one of those things. It's like you've been taught by your dad your whole life, and he's putting it together subliminally. Or maybe he did see him in the next realm and he came back because he wasn't done here yet.
I kind of
So,
like, you're totally right. It could be ambiguous, and I'm
right,
not going to argue with anybody who says it is.
right.
Seeing it for the first time, I took it for what it was, and especially because there's certain things, right? Even when there is some ambiguity on what's real or what's all in someone's head, usually the key is that there's certain elements, or there's certain information that can come out of it that you're like,
Mm-hmm.
well, there's no way he would have known that, so it must be real. So I would say I'm leaning towards real, because the father was giving him information that he probably wouldn't have been privy to. So I'll lean. But even before that, just the father being in peril during the home invasion, just that entire sequence is triggering for probably lots of people who
Yeah.
might have trauma or know someone who's experienced trauma in that type of situation with law enforcement or some faction of the government. Even just from that point right there forward,
Mm-hmm.
that was a kind of a very emotional situation, or a emotional sequence. And so yeah, this movie hit me, I would say, two or three times. Really, really got me right in the feels, right in the feels. And
I agree.
if it wasn't emotional welling up, it was laughter welling up. This movie is so funny.
Yes.
This movie is hysterical. I almost wish there was captions on so I could read what was being said, because the voices were being drowned out by the laughter of
Yeah.
myself
Yeah.
and everybody around me.
That's how you know a movie's good.
This movie is so funny, and it's not funny always in a slapstick sort of way. And
Mm-hmm.
I know there's a large segment of people who are like, I don't find George Lopez funny, so I'm not gonna watch this movie. He's not George Lopez in this
Yeah,
movie.
exactly.
I promise you, there's maybe one line, possibly two, where I'm like, okay, that's George Lopez. But
Yeah.
other than that, he's got 100 other things that he does in this movie that are either interesting or funny, and he kills it. He nails it. Oh my god! I'm gonna spoil some stuff, but not a lot. There's this really early scene where Jaime picks up Jessica Cord and they go back to his place, but his he's driving his uncle's truck without his permission, and it gets shot up. Whatever tailgate is blown off, and the first shot is like a large a wide shot of the city, and you hear this faint sort of yelling, and I'm like, oh, that's not part of the movie because it's so faint. I swear to you, I was like, oh my god, if that's the uncle screaming, that would be amazing. But I it was so faint that I'm like, oh, it must be an accident. And then
Yeah.
they get to the inside the family home, and they're all sitting around the table. Uncle George Lopez, who is known as Randy in the movie, right? Randy
Rudy.
Cesar, Rudy, Uncle Rudy, who's outside screaming his head off because his truck is just totally jacked up. And I'm like, oh my god, we were all dying. We were all dying, man. Oh my god.
It was
Even
awesome.
even before that, when Jaime takes the truck, Uncle Rudy is looking out the window and goes, "No, he took my taco." And then he like turns around and then he faints, and just the sight of him fainting was, oh, I was dying. I was
Yeah.
dying
Yeah.
laughing in this movie. This
Yeah.
is such a fantastic film. I cannot reiterate that enough. We're gonna get to like Geekcast ratings in like 10 minutes here, but man, I it was funnier than I thought it would be.
Yeah.
There was more action than I thought it would be. It was more emotional than I thought it would be. Um, I People were like expecting a very average film, and
Mhm.
I almost listened to those folks too much, and I was blown away, blown away.
Yeah, it was an incredible experience to watch it for the first time, and me and Ray were just like I think us 2 were the loudest laughers in the theater because there'd be something that Ray was more familiar with than I was. He'd react first, and then I'm like, "Oh yeah, I get that. That's hilarious." And then Ray would make me laugh because of his laughter because he was so happy, and then I would laugh at stuff, and I think he would like laugh after me. He's like, "Oh yeah, that's the thing that they did." And I mean, there's so many Latin Easter eggs in it. And there's also a lot of DC Easter eggs in it as well. So, I mean, going into this film, I just think it's near perfect as an origin story for this character, for his culture, for being who he is in that city, Palmera City in DC. And it was modeled after El Paso, which is where the character actually originated from in the comics. It was fantastic, man. I thought back to when the last experience that we had with a film from Hollywood like this, and for me, the last film that we had like this has to be Selena with Jennifer Lopez,
Oh.
with all the references they made and that we got in the audience. I saw that, I guess, back in 1995 at in San Antonio, and it was a great time in that theater because I mean I think the theater was predominantly Mexican American, Latino. So it was all those references were awesome, and I think it feels like Blue Beetle did that times 10, with the references, and
It's can we say
and it worked.
it's a weird thing to kind of call out references because it almost, again, I hate to have this conversation. I wish I
Mhm.
didn't have to do it, but like I even read a comment like a week ago online that on Twitter. now called X, that said, I don't care if there are 30 or so references to the Latino culture, I'm still not going to see it. And I'm like, you know, these aren't references, and I hate I have to spell this out. This isn't done in a way that, oh, we're just going to throw out, I don't know, a grito in the middle of a conversation. Like,
Right.
people feel like, oh, you're just shoehorning stuff into movies, and representation isn't genuine or whatever. Nonsense when people say that. They are there should be a better word for references, but they're just situational occurrences that we relate to. There's
Yeah,
a
it's part of the fabric of the story. When you see the stuff,
Yeah,
it makes sense. It's not just like you said. It's not shoehorning. It's not it's something that's super on the nose. It's subtle. A lot of the stuff is just totally subtle and goes by really quick. And then for the people that get it, I mean, it's a really cool thing. And Easter eggs have been a thing for a long time in film, especially in the Marvel universe, where you see something, it's like, oh yeah, it's that thing, and then they move on. They don't really highlight it. It's just a part of the film, and it's ingrained in the story, and it's supposed to be there.
yep,
I think Marvel's done probably the best job at it. DC's done a pretty good job, and this is a DC film and part of the DCU. And yeah, I love Easter eggs, and there's a lot of them, a lot of Latin Easter eggs, and there's a lot of DC Easter eggs that I think I probably missed. I have to watch the film and probably talk to some of my DC buddies about it. But um, yeah, I mean, this film was a moment, I think, for us, and we're gonna probably be thinking about this for a long time. And it's incredible that we were able to do a couple of events. Ray and I went to Austin, and it was a spectacular celebration of a film. The whole Blue Beetle culture aside, it was a terrific event. I mean, so much swag. They had posters. They had these. So you see this in the movie, the Big Belly burger box, and you see the scarab inside. So when I got there early enough to see them being made, and I was like, oh, cool. They're just giving away the boxes. Maybe there's food in it or something. But you open the box, you actually open the box, which I'm attempting to do right now, and there's actually a scarab inside, a scarab pin, and it's
amazing.
highly detailed. It's 3 dimensions here. It's not just a flat pen. And yeah, they did stuff like that. We got hats. I got this hat today at the San Antonio event. This bucket hat. Um, and yeah, Warner Brothers, DC did these events so well in regards to like the swag. I wish that every big movie did something like this, because to promote the film, but to have the stuff. I think we all want the stuff, and for them to have such a variety of things to hand out and to give away, and they gave away tickets, like we do on Countdown to the Geekcast screenings for all the films that are coming out before they actually release to the public. They did an incredible job, and I got to give a shout out to Toyota here. I actually talked to the Toyota people. You can see it right there, and I drive a Toyota too, so I guess that's free publicity for them on Countdown to the Geekcast. But they were there, and
Hey,
they had a Blue Beetle Toyota truck there that had a wrap on it of Blue Beetle. We took pictures of it. You'll probably see on the website. Um, but yeah, they did a fantastic job with it. Aside from the fact that there's a big writers actors strike currently going on, we didn't get any of those actors, but we did get to meet the co-creator of Jaime Reyes at the Austin event, and he is super cool. His name is Cully Hamner, and it was fantastic. Everything Blue Beetle related has been really really good, and there is a lot of like short shrift, I think, for the movie as far as like marketing goes, but maybe all the marketing budget, when I was talking to Ray, maybe it all went to all the swag and stuff. I mean, got the hat, you got this, you got the pin inside. Like they gave away fanny packs. I mean, I got bags here these bags that they gave out, tote
Yeah,
bags.
the tote bags, yeah.
Yeah, I mean there was
Added to
so
my
much stuff.
collection.
Posters, yeah, posters. Backpacks. I got a backpack right here. I mean, there's so many things they did, and it's great that they came down to where there's like a predominantly Latino population to do this marketing and these events because a lot of people are hyped up about this. A lot of people. It was very interesting to see the range of ages that came out to these events tonight. There was a lot of people 50 and over for sure, 60 and over. It's like wow,
Mm.
it's like they're really showing up, showing out, and it just makes me happy. It's important to me to see this on the screen. And people have said in the past, it's like, well, Hollywood's gotten stale. Where do they go from here? We've seen everything. We haven't seen this, and we're seeing this for the first time. And it's like there's enough Latinos in America or North America for you to kind of know some of these references pretty well, and for you to kind of like laugh, like, okay, wow, that's they put that in there. I've heard the story of Latin culture with like Vix, that whole thing. Um, but there's a lot of little stuff like that in there, and I was waiting personally for the big Salvador Gigante to show up, and it showed up for like a split. I was like, there it is. I was DiCaprio, and I was like pointing at the screen. I was like, there it is. So yeah, I mean, I told the director to his face, I was like, I was waiting for the Salvador Gigante to show up on somewhere to hear that guy. Because I mean, I'd always go to my grandma's house. It was always on, and I mean, it's just one of those landmark films. I think for me, yeah, I hold it up there as pretty much one of the films of my life. Because I mean, to be a DC film, I love DC. I love the whole Superman, Batman of it all. But to have this character, to possibly have a Latino character be important, be almost like the Spider Man to the DC world, because he's a young kid, he's discovering his powers, but he's got like an Iron Man type suit. So it's kind of like he's the Iron Spider, but it's alien though. So there's a different spin on it. But he's also kind of like Green Lantern, how he can like make things with his mind.
Yep.
And it's a very interesting kind of dynamic and mashup of all the powers. And he can fly, and he can fly in outer space just like Superman. So it's almost like he's a combination of a lot of the characters that we love and the possibilities. It's like we got to show up for this movie. We got to support this movie, and I think it's getting a lot of support. And there's early reports that it was not going to make but $15 million for the weekend, and then someone, I this is how I think it happened. Someone in Hollywood basically said, "Well, you gotta think about it though." Which this might be a little bit stereotypical, but they said, "Well, Latinos typically don't pre-buy tickets as much. They usually just walk up to the theater and then just buy the tickets there."
I
So
said the
they're like
same thing.
they don't they're not accounting for that demographic, which is going to show up huge. And then once word of mouth spreads, hey, look, this is a movie for us, about us. People are going to go in droves, I think, and that section of the population of North America is really going to support this film. And it's just a cool character on top of all that. This suit's really cool. I've really kind of fallen in love with the character because, I mean, culture aside, I mean, the suit is really cool. And that character can do a lot of damage to a lot of villains. And
We're not we're not talking about the design of the suit enough. Like
yeah.
it's impeccably designed. It's awesome from like every angle. And like you're right, it does a thousand things. It does whatever you want it to. Green Lantern had constructs, right? Come up with any construct you can think of. And there comes a point in the movie when he basically finds out like I can come up with any weapon I want to, and that's pretty badass if you ask me. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an incredible character. I mean, it's kind of one of those characters you think like, man, why didn't I think of this type of character? Because I mean, it's really kind of like Iron Man, but it's an alien suit. In Iron Man, maybe like an Infinity War, that
Mm.
suit that he's wearing, where he could kind of like conjure up like weaponry and shields and stuff. That's essentially what Blue Beetle is.
It's
And
probably still limited though. He probably has like a dozen or so items that he can choose from. It's not like it's
right,
anything.
right. So yeah. I mean, that's kind of the differentiation. So this character is very, very powerful. It's just Jaime has to use his mind to think up things. But I think the Scarab, Becky G, which is a Scarab, um, essentially they kind of work as one. And I don't think the comic book kind of goes into detail of what the capabilities are or what the previous hosts did with the suit in the past. Or I don't know if we have that information, but it'd be cool to see like a prequel type thing. I don't know if it's in the comics or what, or to find out the origins. I don't know if they want to keep that a mystery, but super cool concept. Um, the fact that it's not a mask, I've seen people describe it as the thing on the face of Jaime is not really a mask; it's just an overlay on his head. But when
Mm,
he speaks, you can see the chin go kind of go up and down, kind of like Deadpool in a way.
yeah, a little
And then
bit.
you can the eyes are animated as well; they're yellow, but they kind of do the thing where you see into the helmet like an Iron Man, and the interface was interesting too. It was a different take on what we've seen in the past,
Oh yeah.
but I mean everything just kind of worked, and I'm really happy with it. And it's like they maxed out the potential of this film in every facet, and it's great. And I hope people go out and see this and support it. And I told James Gunn tonight on Instagram, I
I
said, "Hey,
saw
look,
that.
we need sequels, and if you don't do sequels, you need to sprinkle in Blue Beetle into these other big time films because he could offer great assistance to heroes. And if you do another Justice League or a team up film, it seems like in Superman Legacy, just about every character associated with Superman is going to be in that film. So maybe there's a huge battle sequence. Time can show up there. I mean, the possibilities are limitless, and
It,
I'm glad we have this character.
it's really funny because I am not fluent in Spanish,
Mm-hmm.
but I, on multiple occasions, was following along with what was being said
All right.
by the family, and the subtitles for when certain moments would come up would specifically leave out the curse words that were being uttered, and I'm just like, wait a minute, come
Yeah,
on now.
yeah, yeah. That was a cool little.
I don't know how they got out of an R rating with the amount of cursing that was done in Spanish.
Yeah. It was fun. I noticed that too. Sometimes they wouldn't do the subtitles for the Spanish, and I was like,
No,
okay,
they did
well,
not.
that's how they skirted the MPAA rating of giving it a PG-13. So, and it feels like there's cursing in like the trailers and commercials too. And it's like, how are they getting away with that? But I mean, it's not in English, so
It's so funny, man. It's just the way the family talks to one another is
yeah,
hilarious. Half because our families have talked like that to each other. The other side of the coin is just what they're saying, what they're doing is hilarious. I It's absolutely he 100% genuinely put the modern Hispanic family, Hispanic American family on that screen.
yeah,
Like 100%.
yeah,
Their trials, their tribulations, the things they kind of fight over, argue over,
yeah. Losing the house, yeah,
yeah, all of that stuff. It's just it's there, man, and it's so genuine. It's so heartfelt. Um, yeah, it is wild how in many areas this movie is so damn successful.
yeah,
Just with what they went for, so good in so many ways. Um, yeah, I I don't know what I want to say else about this. I feel like word of mouth will be really good.
yeah. I feel
Um,
the same. Yeah, the word of mouth is going to be tremendous, especially in the South
yeah,
where we live in Texas and other communities too. Miami. I mean, Palmera City looked like Miami. you know.
Right, and they kept saying the keys, the edge keys.
Yeah,
So is
yeah,
that like a
like the
Florida
Florida,
Keys
yeah, like the
reference?
Florida Keys, yeah, right
Okay,
there,
all
yeah,
right,
yeah,
all right, cool. I was just like, I felt like they were on the West Coast for some reason. It felt like it was a West Coast city
yeah,
until they
yeah,
kept using the word edge keys, and I'm like, oh, okay,
yeah.
maybe it's a
It's that
Florida
whole
thing.
DC thing. Gotham is really New York, and Metropolis is really New York type of thing, and Palmetto City is probably like Miami or San
You
Diego
know,
or LA
there
hybrid.
wasn't a ton of DC Easter eggs out that were outside of the Blue Beetle comics, but I did notice that there was they would show the high rises and the towers of the downtown area all the time, a lot, right?
Mhm.
And every now and then there's so many signs on these buildings.
Yeah,
It's hard to read them all really fast,
right.
but there was one shot where one of the buildings on the left, Ace Chemicals, Ace Chemicals that produced the toxic, what they always
Acid,
call it, the well, yeah, but they call it the toxic
access chemicals.
bath or something like that.
Yeah,
Toxic. Oh my god, it's gonna bug me all night until I fall asleep. Anyways, yeah. So the vat, right? The toxic vat
yeah.
that Joker fell into. So Ace Chemicals was definitely there. So
Wow.
that's a little bit of a Batman reference there.
Then of course
Also,
Rudy says Batman's a fascist, and we see that in
Batman's a
the
fascist,
commercial. Yeah,
which some people had problems with, and I'm just like, A, it's a joke.
yeah.
B, Uncle Rudy is like your not typical. I don't want to say
I would say
typical.
typical conspiracy, like
Okay,
hyper
okay,
conspiracy
fine.
guy.
Well, I
So
was gonna
that
say
was pretty cool.
typical conspiracy uncle. Like
Yeah,
we might not all have one, so I don't want to say typical. But if you have a member of your family that is all about conspiracy theories, everything in your house is bugged, who wants to stay off the grid, stuff like that,
yeah,
that's who he is. That's just a
yeah,
character thing. People were taking that personal, like he was ruining their childhood. I'm just like, it's a fucking movie, man.
yeah.
Like, get over it. And then they did mention, I think Superman twice. I think once Jaime said, "I fly like Superman," or "I can fly like Superman,"
Yeah.
and then somebody also in another moment said something like, "Oh, I think it was Rudy. Uncle Rudy said, you could be a hero like for us, like Superman is for Metropolis."
Mm.
And so that was kind of interesting. Angel Manuel Soto said that he was actually doing those things to kind of pay respects to Zack Snyder. So
Interesting.
even better. More
Yeah.
props. More props to the king. Yeah, I said it. There's this weird thing where like everybody's expecting Snyder fans to boycott this movie because they want to bring back the Snyderverse. But I'm a Snyder fan,
Mhm.
one of the
I am
biggest
too.
you'll find. And I watched this movie. I supported this movie. I love this movie, and I think when Zach's ever ready to come back, then that will be the moment to kind of like really show your support. He, our support's not gonna mean anything until the dude's ready to come back, and he's busy as hell. So it's a weird thing, but everybody should go see this movie. And I said it online earlier. This movie is great, and that's why you should see it. You shouldn't see it just because it's the first Latino lead superhero movie ever. I'm pretty sure that's accurate.
Yeah,
You
that's
shouldn't
accurate.
see it. Yeah, you shouldn't see it because of the representation. Some people hate that word. It's not. I don't call it a representation. I call it a celebration of the Hispanic culture. You shouldn't see it because just because of it's a DC movie. You should go see it because it's great, because it's entertaining, because it is flat out funny from like
Yeah.
start to finish. The
Yeah.
character is cool. The family is hilarious. Susan Sarandon as a bad guy. When are you gonna see that again?
Yeah.
Go just go for that if you want to. Um,
Is she
she
the only
could
white
she
person in the movie?
no, definitely not. Let
Well,
me
as
think.
far as
Let
like
me think.
lead characters, lead actors, I think she
Oh, I
is
got you. She might be
because like
lead characters. Yeah, right.
yeah,
She's probably
Carapax was Latino. Even Jenny is Brazilian,
Janie's Brazilian.
which I thought she was not Latina. I thought she was white. I mean, she played it off perfectly.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what? What's great is I can say this. Sholo Maridueña, our lead who plays Jaime Reyes, he actually said to me in a press conference that this project had a large Latino crew behind it,
Yeah,
people behind the scenes, majority of which were Latino in some
yeah,
shape, way, or form. And I know people, if in your head you're one of two people. If you're watching this, you're one of two people when you hear that. You're either cool or you're like, oh, why does it matter? And it doesn't. But
it does.
when you're trying to tell a story about a Hispanic American, Mexican American, whatever family living in the U.S., you just want some people who understand it so that it comes off authentic. If it doesn't come off authentic, then it's pandering,
Right,
and nobody wants that.
right.
Not even people who
Yeah,
might see themselves in it. Nobody wants to be pandered to. And so what do? You go all out, you put in the time, you put in the effort to make these things feel genuine, to tell the truth on screen in the script. That's what you do. That's why you do it. That's why this is a great movie. Whatever the box office numbers are going to be, good or bad, this movie's an absolute hit. It really is, and people should go out and see it. Even though there's a strike going on, folks who worked on this movie, the director, the actors, the writer, they want you to see this movie,
yeah,
despite the strike and all that. They still want this movie to be seen so that they can make more movies like it. Cool.
yeah.
This is a part of the show when we give out our geek cast rating, and I'm laughing because, like, man, uh, it's gonna be really hard to find any reason to give it a lower score than what I'm thinking right now. So, Dave, I'm gonna start with you. Sorry to put you on the spot, but 1 to 5, one being name the worst superhero movie ever. Some people say Green Lantern. I would probably say something more like Fantastic Four, or
Yeah, I liked Green Lantern.
and 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 5 being the best or just a perfect movie. I know people say Infinity War, Endgame. I still say Winter Soldier. So, Dave, what is your Geekcast rating for Blue Beetle?
I don't think there's you could have a perfect movie. I think, like you said, Infinity War, Endgame, maybe Infinity War more so than Endgame, is about as perfect a superhero movie as you can get. But of course, they had the benefit of all those movies that came before it, telling the story leading up to that film that they created. But as far as my rating, my Countdown City Geekcast rating, I mean, it has to go as far as it can possibly go before being perfect. Because, like I said, for someone like me, for someone like us, for it to be as entertaining as it was, and then being an origin story for a character that might continue on. I mean, there's so many factors and nuances. The score, the acting, the directing, the CGI. It was all top notch. I mean, I guess I guess I have to, with everything that I've said on this podcast, it has to be as high as it can possibly be without being a perfect score, but how can you not give it a full complete 5 stars? Because I told you it was like a core memory that we made watching this film, right? I mean, it's a landmark film. So, I mean, I have to give it the highest marks you can possibly give it. I'm gonna be wearing this hat until I get another Blue Beetle hat that I like more. I'm gonna be wearing the scarab pin on all the stuff like going forward because I have a lot of love for DC. I fell in love with Batman with Tim Burton and Michael Keaton, and then I discovered Adam West with my brother and Burt Ward playing Batman and Robin, and I've loved them since then. I've loved all the merch, all the toys. I mean, and it's DC. It's DC is on the up. It's coming back up. It's coming back around here, and yeah, I mean, I gotta give it 5 stars.
Hey, there it is.
Yeah,
There it is. And listen, I know I said 5 is a perfect movie, but I think that you can find things to nitpick on if you really wanted to for any movie, right? Even the ones that are
yeah,
deemed perfect. Um, but it is extremely hard to find anything to nitpick with this movie because here's the biggest indicator. My wife, who she is not as big of a moviegoer as I am. As a matter of fact, I would say I could probably count on less than two hands how many movies she's actually stayed awake in, even if it's like 30 seconds.
yeah,
She's nodding off for at least 30 seconds in
yeah.
every single movie, no matter what. This one, nah, not once. Wasn't even close. Wasn't even anywhere near close. And I know that sounds like a stupid indicator on like how entertaining a movie is, but I'm telling you, if she's wide awake throughout any movie, movie's a massive hit, and this one is a massive hit. 5 stars for me because I'm engaged nonstop. I am belly laughing nonstop. The action's great, the special effects, the acting, the directing. We haven't even talked about the music.
Yeah.
Arguably one of the best movie soundtracks ever, and it's a particular taste for sure.
Mhm.
But we heard like Spanish versions of like pop '80s tunes in this, and I'm just
Mhm.
like what? There's a Spanish version of this song, and I'm
Yeah.
just like no. Even the music blew me away. So that brings our very easy to calculate Geekcast rating to a 5, and I no apologies for that. I don't give it a 5 because it's the Godfather 2 of all time. I give it a 5 because everything they attempted executed flawlessly. They could not have done a better job in this film. So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, as a fan of cinema, being Mexican American, it's a religious experience.
sure,
Yeah.
100%. Yeah, I honestly I want to try and talk about it less bias. I know it sounds like I'm completely
Yeah.
biased,
Yeah.
but no, I'm not even like nerding out as much as I would with all the references and stuff. You mentioned the Vicks. All I needed was for the grandmother to like rub an egg on Jaime's head and just like say like, "Here you go, honey," and people are like, "Why would you rub an egg on someone's head?" I'm like, "Well, that's how you heal people in a Hispanic household. You rub a raw egg on their head. Don't ask me why. I don't make these rules
Yeah.
up, but it's just something that happens." It's funny
Yeah.
because you mentioned the Vicks. I totally got the Vicks treatment. I don't know if this is how everybody else does it, but I guess when I was a kid, I'd have a fever or a cold
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah.
You slather the Vicks a good 2 coats all over the chest.
Yeah.
And then I think also it was the feet, right?
Yeah.
Vicks
Yeah.
on the feet, and then you put a sock over it. Don't ask me why. I don't even do these things with my
Yeah.
own kids,
Yeah.
but that's just what happened. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
That was done to me when I was a kid. I remember like my mom and my dad take off the shirt, put the Vicks on the chest, breathe it in. It's like, okay, if this works. And I don't. What's the other equivalent to that in other cultures? I'm not quite sure, but
I don't know.
I one I just thought of right now that they didn't put in there was the when someone says "sana sana colita de rana," they didn't put that in
Ah,
there.
I was waiting for that one too. It didn't happen, but
Yeah,
that might be more of a, I don't know. We'll see what happens. It
yeah.
might be more of a Mexican
But they
American
put in
thing.
La Chona in there. And I was like, yeah.
Da-da-da. They put in La Chona. They put in the Mexican and I call it the Mexican anthem. Cumbia Sampuesana is
Oh yeah,
the
yeah,
Mexican anthem. I think that every culture has like their own anthem.
yeah,
That's like a song. Ours is Cumbia Sampuesana, and if you've heard that song, even if you don't think you have, and
yeah,
they played a bit of it, and it wasn't the right part of the song, but it was enough to I'm like, of course the song is in here. It's awesome. Yeah, no, I'm dancing. The family next to me, to my right, they're dancing when like songs are coming up. Selena made the cut. We
yeah,
got a Selena
yeah.
reference, which she's probably the biggest
Most famous.
mainstream
Yeah.
reference in all of this. I would say
Right. Right.
there's probably not a person alive in the last 30 years who doesn't know who Selena is in the U.S. Even because of just the news story of what it was. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
What?
Looking at the
What?
people's faces coming out of the theater too, that all smiles, all
Yeah.
smiling, all laughing.
I loved.
And I asked people what you thought, and all of them said it was great. It was a fantastic movie. It was something that we weren't expecting, and I mean it's a landmark film for us, and
Yeah.
I hope I really hope that people show up and support it. And if you go to all your local all the big chains are doing special cups, tins, buckets for popcorn. I think Regal is doing, or Cinemark is doing the ship as a popcorn holder. You open up the wings in the back and you put the popcorn in. I want to try and get one of those. Go to a Cinemark, and I think the closest one to me is in Austin, South Austin.
I feel like those things never work the way they're supposed
Yeah, yeah,
to.
yeah. But it
They're
looks
like,
like a toy though. It looks like a toy you buy at a
it sure
store
does. It
and you
sure
can
does.
display it so it'll look cool in comparison to like all the tins you collect, you know? I mean, looks
Here's
actually some displayable.
here's how. Again, I said earlier that was my non-biased review earlier. This is my biased discussion right now. I'll be done in a second. But just the fact that in a mainstream Hollywood movie, oh by the way, superhero movie, we got a shot of a tortilla holder. And I know that sounds stupid. I know that sounds stupid.
A
I know.
tortilla holder.
It was on the table, I
Okay.
guess when maybe Jaime first came home or
Oh,
something.
you talking about like the circle and the circle on top and you
Yeah,
pick it up and
that's made
okay.
out of like meteorite because it's indestructible, right? Nobody knows what it's made of. It's not wood. It's not only plastic. It's some sort of hybrid of
Yeah.
like
Adobe.
concrete.
Yeah. It's what the Mayans made the pyramids of like
Yeah.
thousands of years ago that still are up. Yeah.
I mean, I was heating up my tacos, my tortillas, and putting it in that before I went to go see the damn movie. And so just seeing that, it's just like, wow, we've come so far. And it sounds so stupid to say that, but it
Yeah.
sometimes that matters.
Yeah.
Sometimes all you want to see is a goddamn tortilla holder because every household you've been in, you've lived in, your families that you visited, everybody has
Yeah.
that same damn one.
Yeah.
We don't have different designs. There's like three colors total. They're all
Yeah.
different. I mean, they're all the same. They're
Yeah.
not bigger than the others. They're all there's one company who just makes them in like three different shades, and
Gotta be
we all have
billionaires.
it. Yeah, I'm telling you,
Yeah,
that's
every Mexican
just
restaurant too has them.
every. Yo, yeah,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
best ones have one for every table. Just like
Yeah.
the best ones will give you two for your table. Here you go. Here's a half dozen for you on this side. Here's a half dozen for you on that side. There you go. It's just it's wild. Even just that little thing was just like, huh, that's the coolest thing ever. Whew, what a time to be alive.
Yeah, I was just thinking of that, man. I made it far enough into life to witness this film.
Yeah, I never would have thought. Reading the comics, seeing him on Young Justice cartoon, never would have thought we would see this day. I was always hoping for it. Never thought we'd see this day. Thank you to the entire cast, the entire crew, Angel Manuel Soto, for just putting your heart and soul into this
Yeah.
movie. It shows, brother. It shows. And we want to hear from you guys. If you're still watching this video, I know it's long and stuff, but hopefully you enjoyed it. Be sure to like it, like the video. If you're not already subscribed, you should be, because we gave out movies passes to this film, and we also gave out passes to a an invitation only party downtown on the Riverwalk that David and Ray were at,
So I got this
and
hat.
they had a blast. Oh yeah, ton of swag at
Yeah.
this thing. Free food,
Yeah.
beverages, live entertainment, music, the whole works. And so that's why you should also be subscribed to the Countdown City Geeks, because more stuff like that, right?
Yeah. And we
Appreciate
met
it.
a lot
All
of
you
people that listened to Countdown City Geeks and came up to us and said, "Hey, thank you. If it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't be here right now, absolutely for free." So that's another reason to like, subscribe, and check out the website because giveaways galore.
giveaways galore. We're not going to stop. We got big plans, and you guys can come along for the ride. For the Countdown City Geeks, my name is Ted, aka Steady. With me on this Blue Beetle spoiler review is the one and only David Lozano,
Senior David.
Senior David. We love you all. Good night, and may the Beetle be with you. I don't know.
Go watch Blue Beetle August
Twice.
18th
Take the whole family.
as many
We'll
times as you
love it.
can. Support it.
Absolutely. Good night.